This is a mock draft post combine. So the first overall pick, Titans need a quarterback. And I think the best QB in the class is Cam Ward, hands down. So I'm thinking Titans draft Cam Ward. And then with number 2 overall pick, Cleveland Browns, they just re-signed Myles Garrett. He wanted out of Cleveland, but he got handed 4 years, $40 million each year, and then $120 million, I think, guaranteed. I still think you go Abdul Carter, though. I still think the Cleveland Browns should go Abdul Carter at number 2. I think he's arguably the best player in this draft. So you have to go Carter at 2. And then the Giants at 3. They really need a quarterback. The only other quarterback that is hops in this QB class is Shedeur Sanders. But when you have arguably the most talented player in this class in Travis Hunter, I think you have to go Travis Hunter if you're the Giants. And then either you pick up, an Aaron Rodgers, which is highly likely the QB they're going to be going after in free agency, or they get Travis Hunter in this draft. They suck next season, get the top pick next year, and get Arch Manning with the first overall pick in 2026. So with this mock draft, I'm going Travis Hunter to the New York Giants at 30. And in New England at 4, you need to get offensive line help. They need offensive line. I would say Will Campbell, because he's arguably the best offensive lineman in this class. But Mimbu out of Missouri, he did really well at the combine. 6'3", 314. So I think they actually go Mimbu at offensive lineman for New England. So 5, Jacksonville, I would say it could go Mason Graham. They could go defensive lineman with Mason Graham. They could go cornerback with Will Johnson out of Michigan. I think Jacksonville needs defensive line help, and they go Mason Graham out of Michigan at 5. And then the Raiders, they just traded for Geno Smith of the Seattle Seahawks to reunite him with Pete. So I think at 6, you either go T-Mac to give Geno Smith a wide receiver 1, or you go Ashton Gentry, the running back out of Boise State. They need a wide receiver. They need a running back. I think they go running back, Ashton Gentry. And then 7 for the New York Jets. I think this is where Shedeur Sanders goes. He was supposed to go to the Raiders before Geno Smith got there. I think he falls to 7 with the Jets. And then 8 to Carolina. They have their pick of the remaining edge rushers in this class. They need defensive linemen, edge rushers, bottom of the pack in sacks last season. I think they go. James Pierce did really well at the combine. I could see. I could see Stewart going here. I think it's Jalen Walker though. I think Jalen Walker goes to Carolina at 8. He's 6'2", 245. He's a linebacker, edge rusher. He can get to the quarterback, which is what the Panthers need. So I think Jalen Walker to Carolina at 8. And then you got Saints at 9. They need defensive linemen. They need an edge rusher. I think Stewart out of Texas A&M to the Saints because Cam, they need his replacement at some point. So I'm gonna go Stewart to the Saints, and then Chicago at pick 10. I think offensive lineman. They did get two offensive linemen. They traded for Joe Tooney of the Chiefs, and they got I think someone from the Texans. I'm not 100% sure who else they got. I know they got two offensive linemen. But they got guards. So I think offensive tackle could still be a need. I think Will Campbell falls to 10 to Chicago. And then San Francisco at pick 11. That could be a guard. I think interior for San Fran. I mean, Tyler Booker is the best offensive guard in this class. But they can also go edge or defensive lineman as well. But they could also pick up uh, Joey Bosa to pair with Nick Bosa because Joey just got cut from the Chargers. I think San Fran at 11. Maybe they go corner. I mean, Will Johnson's still available at this point in the draft. I think they can't pass him up, and Niners go with a new cornerback in Will Johnson. And then Dallas at 12. They need a replacement for Zach Martin, who just retired. So Jared Wilson, he did well at the combine, but as a true center, I think they get Tyler Booker out of Alabama. I think that would be, I mean, they need guard. Booker falls to him at pick 12 to replace future Hall of Famer Zach Martin. 13, Miami Dolphins. Why not go with Barron? They can also go linebacker. Well, they can also go edge as well. And Kenneth Grant is still here. I think the Dolphins might go after someone like Campbell. I mean, is there any other good offensive lineman left? Kevin Banks? They could go tackle out of Texas. They do need it. They do need offensive lineman. They do need tackle. I'm gonna have him take Calvin Banks out of Texas. I mean, at this point of the draft, Kevin Banks is the best tackle remaining after the Patriots get Membu out of Missouri, and then Will Campbell falling already to 10 to Chicago. So Calvin Banks is the best remaining tackle in this class, falling to a team that desperately needs tackle. Got to keep Tua alive. So at 14, I think this is when the first tight end comes off the board, and Tyler Warren, who is possibly the best tight end we've seen in the draft in a few years, 6'6", 260. So I think the Colts get a franchise tight end for the next 10 plus years. Give Anthony Richardson a safety blanket. Atlanta at 15, I think they could go James Pierce. They do need edge help. They could go wide receiver. Maybe someone like a Matthew Golden, Luther Burden. But I have him taken edge. I think James Pierce, this is when he stops falling in the draft. I think he goes to 15 to the Falcons, who need help at the edge position. James Pierce ran a 4.47 at the combine at 6'5", 240. Fastest edge rusher at the combine. He had over 13 sacks back in 2023. He's productive. He can give the Falcons some much needed help at that position. And then Arizona at 16. They can go corner. They're losing some corners. They could go Benjamin Morrison out of Notre Dame. They could go Jadair Barron out of Texas. They also need defensive line help, though. I think Kenneth Grant falling to him at 16 is crazy. In this mock draft, it does happen. I think at this point, you see Kenneth Grant falling, you run your card up, and you draft him. I think he's the one of the best remaining defensive linemen in this class. I think they take him at 16. And the Cincinnati Bengals might be tagging and trading T. Higgins. They need wide receiver help if they do end up trading T. Higgins. So this is where T Mac falls. He falls all the way down to Cincinnati, 6'5", 212. This would be the replacement for T. Higgins if he does happen to get traded. You pair T Mac on the other side of Jamal Chase. You got a two-headed monster for Joe Burrow in that offense. I think it's a no-brainer. If you see T Mac falling and the Bengals are there, it's like, hey, we'll take him. Seahawks at 18. They no longer have Geno Smith. So could they go quarterback? The only other quarterback in this class that might be a first round pick is Jackson Dart. I don't think I think 18 might be a tad bit early for Jackson Dart. I do see a team like the Seahawks or the Steelers trading back into the first round, kind of like what the Ravens did when they drafted Lamar Jackson to get that fifth-year option. But at 18, I think it might be a little too soon for Dart. He did do well at the combine. He did throw well at the combine. But I think they could go Mike Green, edge out of Marshall, or they can go linebacker. I mean, Campbell is still sitting here. I think if you draft Campbell here, that'd be. I think that's how they. I think that's the position they go. I think you're the Seahawks. You just trade away your franchise quarterback, Geno Smith. They don't really have much wide receivers, so they can go wide receiver because they just cut Tyler Lockett. DK Metcalf wants out. So they could go wide receiver. They could get like a Luther Burden. They could get a Mekabuke. They could get a Isaiah Bond here. Just to replace what they lost in Tyler Lockett. And then if BK does get traded, you got to pair Jackson Smith and Jigba with some other wide receiver. I think Amika Buke could be a receiver that the Seahawks might pick up. I mean, if the Seahawks don't get Ibuke, I think Tampa might. I mean, I don't really see any other top level guards that could get drafted in the first round. I mean, Myers Frazier, possibly. They could go offensive tackle. Someone like a Josh Simmons. I think Mike Green in that Seahawks defense, 6'4", 248, 250. I think Mike Green in that defense might do really well. I'm gonna say the Seahawks get Mike Green. So Tampa at 19, they are gonna be losing Chris Godwin. So I say wide receiver. I think Luther Burden to Tampa. I think that's, I mean, him falling to 19 is surprising, but I think Tampa they need a wide receiver. They also need edge. They could go Michael Williams. Actually, let's give him edge. The edge out of Georgia. He's 6'5", 265. I think, I mean, Tampa does need edge rushers. I think Williams will help him out. So I'm going to go edge. And now Denver at pick 20, I think just makes sense. Colston Loveland, the second best tight end in this class, goes to Denver at pick 20. They lose out on Taylor Warren, who gets picked at 14 to the Indianapolis Colts. Just makes sense. They need tight end. I think Sean Payton will love Colston Loveland in that offense. Kind of give him that Jimmy Graham kind of tight end. 6'5", 245. Loveland to the Broncos. Pittsburgh. They also might need a quarterback. Do they re-sign Justin Fields? This could be another option for Jackson Dart if he doesn't get one of those teams that trade up back into the first round and picks him. Even though the Seahawks could go Jackson Dart at 18, if the Steelers don't re-sign Justin Fields or picks up some other kind of QB in free agency, I think they could go Jackson Dart at pick 21. I think they could go Jackson Dart at 21. They could also go Amika Buke. They could go Matthew Golden at 21. I think they also need corner. Barron's still available. If Barron is still available at this point, I think Pittsburgh runs their card up and gets him. So I'm gonna say Pittsburgh gets Barron. The Chargers at 22. They could go running back. I think. I mean, the top tight ends are already off the board. They could go Donovan at a Boston College. Walter Nolan out of Mississippi. I mean, I think corner could be a need. It's not like they need one, but Benjamin Morrison could be a possibility here. I also see Morrison to Green Bay or Minnesota as an option. So I think Chargers get a, it did lose Joey Bosa. So I think an edge is a need. Maybe Nick Scottson out of Texas A&M. I'm gonna go Nick to the Chargers. Get the replacement for Joey Bosa. Green Bay at 23. I think Malachi Starks to Green Bay is just a dream for the Packers. I think he fits well with that scheme. But if they don't go safety, they need wide receivers, but they're all pretty young, like on early on their team. They could go after like a Luther Burden. They could go after like a Matthew Golden. I think Green Bay goes. I either think Starks the safety, or they can also go. I'm gonna say Starks. I think Starks goes to Green Bay. The last time Green Bay has drafted a wide receiver in the first round was like 10, 15 years ago. They don't draft wide receivers in the first round, and I think that continues in this draft. Minnesota at 24. They need corners, and I think either Maxwell Harrison or the corner out of East Carolina. I think these two could or even Benjamin Morrison. Let's do Benjamin Morrison to Minnesota. That would be a great corner for Minnesota. And then at 25, Luther Burden to the Texans. They'll be losing Stephon Diggs. So they need to replenish that wide receiver room. I think Luther Burden or Mika Bugay could be perfect in that offense. I'm going to go with this pick. I think Egabuke would make more sense for the Houston Texans. And then the Rams, I think they go Campbell. I think they go Campbell, linebacker out of Alabama. They need linebacker help, 6'3", 244. Unless there's a better linebacker in this class. I mean, could go Carson. I don't think he's a first round pick. I mean, if there's any other good tacklers in this class, I think they could go tackle. I think is it Osray, the tackler out of Minnesota? I think he could go here. I also think Josh Simmons, since he's falling, I think he could go to the Rams. I think I'm going to do Osray to the Rams at pick 26. The Rams need offensive line help. I think he would be good. Protect Matthew Stafford for a few more years. The Ravens at 27. I think edge. I think the Ravens go edge. This is a deep defensive line class. And Donovan at a Boston College, I think the Ravens don't they can't pass it. They can't pass that option up. The Lions at pick 28, they need offensive line help. I think if this is how the draft falls and the Lions can get Jaheir Campbell at pick 28, that would be an absolute steal. Yeah, I think they have to go linebacker here at this point. I think Campbell at 28, perfect fit, 6'3", 244. He's a tackling machine. I think him at the in the Lions defense, you can't pass that up if you're Detroit. And with pick 29, my Washington Commanders, I would have him go wide receiver here. But we did pick up Debo Samuel from the Niners for a fifth round pick. I do like Luther Burden. Matthew Golden is another option. I think we need a wide receiver with some speed. I think Matthew Golden could be a really good option. Or Isaiah Bond. Isaiah Bond in Washington would be really good. That would be really good for Washington. I mean, corners. I mean, Maxwell Harrison, Ravel from East Carolina. They could go edge. But I mean, does not like JT could go here. We need to protect Jaden Daniels. So as much as it would be awesome to get, you know, an Isaiah Bond or a Mika Buke, I think you have Josh Simmons just sitting here. I think you take him. You take him at pick 29. As much as I would love to see Washington get like a Luther Burden or a Matthew Golden or an Isaiah Bond, we have Terry McLaurin. We just brought in Debo Samuel. We got Luke McCaffrey. I mean, we have wide receivers. We could pick one up in free agency. This is tough because I'm a huge Commander fan, so I would like to see wide receiver. But at the end of the day, we need to protect Jaden Daniels. And I think tackle is the right decision. As much as I would love to get a weapon, I think you go tackle. If you're Washington and you either go Josh Simmons or you can go the tackle out of Arizona. I think Josh Simmons to Washington would be a perfect fit. We need offensive line help to protect Jaden Daniels. He is the franchise quarterback. And then Buffer at 30. They can have their pick of the remaining wide receivers if they wanted to. They could get an Isaiah Bond. They could get a Luther Burden, a Matthew Gold. I think Isaiah Bond, Buffalo needs speed. They need speed. And Isaiah Bond I think is this is either Isaiah Bond or Matthew Golden. Matthew Golden, I ran a 4.29. So Buffalo needs speed. Why not go out and draft Matthew Golden out of Texas? 6 foot 195. He was productive in college. Each season, he got more than six or more touchdowns in each college season, and he catches at least 60 plus footballs a season. And he's the fastest wide receiver in this class, and Buffalo needs speed. So I'd say Matthew going to Buffalo at pick 30. The Chiefs at 31. I think they could go Derek Harmon. They did trade away Joe Tooney to Chicago. I mean, they could go the tackle at Arizona. I'm gonna have them take the tackle at Arizona. They need offensive line help. I mean, in that Super Bowl game, Mahomes was getting hit almost every single play, and Philadelphia was only rushing four, and they were getting straight to Mahomes consistently. So Mahomes and the Chiefs especially, need offensive line help, and them trading away Joey Tooney was a bad idea. He was the best offensive lineman. He did not give up a sack in over 1,000 snaps. The fact that they just traded him away to Chicago doesn't make any sense. And they got, I think, not even a 2025 pick. They got a 2026 draft pick for Joe Tooney. Don't know why they did that. Doesn't make any sense. So I have him picking the tackle out of Arizona at 31. And then the Super Bowl winning Philadelphia Eagles at pick 32. So they could go corner. They could go wide receiver. But I think they're pretty good at wide receivers right now. So I think maybe offensive lineman. Maybe Miles Frazier, maybe. I think they're going to be losing Josh Sweat in free agency, so they could replace him. I mean, who would you replace him with? JT, maybe? Or they just go defensive lineman, just the best available defensive lineman, Derek Harmon. I'm going to have him pick Harmon out of Oregon. He's the best defensive lineman left in this class, other than like Darius Alexander, maybe Shamir Turner. I mean, none of these edge. I mean, maybe Princely or JT. I'm gonna say Derek Harmon to Philly. So recap of the draft. I think it looks pretty good. Definitely a possibility. The Lions, you know, Campbell at 28, I think is a perfect fit. The Ravens need edge rusher. I think Donovan at 27 makes sense. The Chiefs definitely desperately need offensive line help. The Bills get a quick wide receiver to give Josh Allen another weapon. You have Tyler Warren to the Colts, Colson Loveland to the Broncos. Panthers get Walker out of Georgia. And then Shedeur Sanders falls to 7 to the Jets because the Raiders no longer need a quarterback because they got Geno Smith. Comments, what you think? I have your favorite team picking. And make sure to like, comment, subscribe.